An urgent warning is now going around as there's less than 2 remaining before an expected solar eclipse is set to hit and affect 15 different states. We're going to go ahead and go through this list, but it's going to go through places like Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Ohio, New York, and Indiana, just to name a few. Now, you might be thinking that a solar eclipse isn't necessarily dangerous given that it's nature, and that you're safe so long as you don't look at it directly, without the proper gear. But the problem is, this is the last solar eclipse until the year 2044. This means that there's a lot of excitement and, with people who have never even seen a solar eclipse before. And that's where the danger lies.
You need proper eclipse glasses. Sunglasses, I don't care how dark those things are, those will not come even close to properly protecting your eyes. To make sure that you don't damage your eyes and honestly just to overall see the eclipse better, you need proper eclipse glasses that are CE and ISO certified. Highly recommend getting them sooner than later. They're normally pretty cheap, but they typically do sell out.
There can be many unforeseen events during this time. In fact, local government officials in different states are now announcing warnings about how people should go about this rare event. Believe it or not, some residents are actually being told now to go ahead and stock up on food, water, supplies, and even gas. There's even warnings that talk about eclipse chasers that are sure to flood towns and cities that are affected by this phenomenon. And of course, the eclipse is expected to happen in early April. And it's said that there are areas that would experience it for far longer compared to others. One state that's already preparing at this time would be Texas. They're actually so serious about this that some counties are already issuing disaster declarations.
Texans are about to have a front row seat to a historic event. Every few years or so, the sun, moon, and earth all line up, creating the cosmic wonder that we call a total solar eclipse, causing near total darkness in the middle of the afternoon. In central Texas, schools have already canceled classes, and several counties have even issued disaster declarations. The last time this happened in Texas was more than 100 years ago, making this upcoming eclipse historically significant.
A total solar eclipse occurs somewhere on Earth almost every year. But in any given spot, it may be only every 350 years or so.
According to NASA, the Great North American Eclipse will stretch from Mexico to Canada and last anywhere from 3.5 to 4 minutes.
Now, you're probably wondering why they would even need to issue disaster warnings or disaster declarations, right? Well, the fact of the matter is that there are some spots here in the country that aren't prepared to have so many people arriving in such a small place all at one time. And the expectations is that hundreds of thousands of people will be moving to these areas in the path of totality. Now, if you think about food and water supplies in small counties, you would realize that this can possibly lead to shortages. And it's not like all of these people will bring all of the supplies that they need for their travels. And speaking of traveling, it's also expected that most of these people will travel with their own vehicles. That means that gas may also become a precious commodity at that time, because it's not impossible for gas stations to just completely run out of gas, especially when you take in consideration that thousands of vehicles would need a ton of gas to move around. And while some say that this isn't really something that we should be worried about, we have to also prepare for all possible scenarios. Now, again, the next time that we actually see something like this is still a decade away. The amount of people that are planning to go around the country to experience this eclipse, it's sure to be staggering. And just to prove that, check out what's happening over in Oklahoma. Just one county there is expecting as many as 100,000 people to visit for this event. So they're all expected to visit McCurtain County, and it's being observed by local officials because it's an unprecedented event. The expectation is now at a point where they're prepared to deploy the National Guard. The troops are set to assist in emergency management. They're also going to be providing first responders as well as units with hazmat response capabilities just in case an incident like an industrial wildfire. Officials in different counties, they're also expecting very similar situations. Warnings have also been released about unsafely parked vehicles in remote areas and, of course, the possibility of wildfires in areas with dry vegetation. So there's also the concern that traffic would build up in different areas. This means that it is possible that people leave their cars behind just so that they can catch up to the time of totality. Another risk for drivers and locals, as some may be unaware of what's happening. There's also a specific warning for drivers that are taking the highways, as there are those who may be tempted to try to watch the eclipse as they're driving by. Of course, this opens up the possibility of car crashes that could ultimately result in hospitals being overwhelmed if too many people get involved in different wrecks. But which specific areas are actually going to be affected by the solar eclipse? Well, I got a list for you guys. So I'll have the list somewhere here, but as you guys can see, there's Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And I know that there are timestamps included here, but if you or someone you know is planning or traveling to see the eclipse, it would be best to know that preparation is everything. Don't expect your travel to be easy, guys. It's for sure going to include some congestion and some traffic, so I would definitely plan for that.
Well, the 100% eclipse coverage area will hit land in Mazatlan, Mexico. It will make its way through Mexico up into Texas, passing right over major cities like Dallas. It will go up into the Midwest, going directly over Indianapolis and Cleveland, pushing up into the Northeast, going over cities like Buffalo and Syracuse, and then making its way up into Maine, and then eventually ending in Newfoundland. And that's just part of why this total eclipse is special, is the millions upon millions of people who will have the opportunity to see it. Now, don't get me wrong, total eclipses, they happen every couple of years, so they're not particularly uncommon. However, for the most part, they're typically over water, so no one really gets to see it happen.
Also, don't rely on local stores for your food and for your water, because there's a high likelihood that thousands of other people are also thinking of doing the exact same thing. And while there are many dangers to this upcoming event, it's also one that's celebrated across the world, which is why it's best to stay safe so that we can all enjoy to the fullest. Don't forget to get your necessary eyewear as early as you can, because you don't want to wait until the supplies are all gone or for prices to start shooting up through the roof, right? For others, it might just be a better option to stay home, as many of you guys have already probably seen an eclipse before. But if you're really interested in checking this out, it would probably be best to kind of stay updated with your local government. Some officials are actually organizing spots where it would be the safest for people to view it from.
You'll get to experience the total eclipse for over 4 minutes. This is nearly twice as long as the 2017 solar eclipse that I got to experience. But once the moon is fully in position to block out the sun, you are free to take off your protective glasses and look at the eclipse with your naked eye. Another reason why this total eclipse is special is our sun is approaching its solar maximum, a period of time where the sun is most active. So when the sun is fully eclipsed, you'll likely be treated to quite the dramatic view. You will get to observe the corona, the sun's upper atmosphere, in all of its glory. Again, with the sun being near its solar maximum, I fully expect an absolutely insane light show that will feel like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. However, pro tip, just look away from the eclipse about a minute before totality, take your protective glasses off, and then look around and watch how quickly the world goes from light mode to dark mode. It happens a lot faster than you think, and it's a really cool experience.
There are viewing events that are being held in different places. Some of them are even backed by NASA. There are places like Louise Hayes Park. That would even include live music and activity for kids. There's also schools that will be hosting public viewing from their football stadiums. The choice is totally up to you guys, but please be aware that you have to choose your viewing places wisely. Make sure that you're prepared, and most importantly, have fun. So are you guys planning on taking part in this once in a decade phenomenon? As always, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys updated on everything that's going on. Thank you guys for hitting the like button. Thank you for sharing this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.